Unfortunately, that light strike sums this rifle up. Surprisingly disappointing.
So in front of us today, we have the new to Canada Chiappa Big Badger in 30-30 Winchester. Now, as always, we'll show that the firearm is clear and safe. Safe being that position. So starting from the rear of the rifle and working our way forward, we have a rubber butt pad, no complaints there. We have a adjustable cheek rest. Now, a few things about the adjustable cheek rest. It is toolless, at least these are. However, you have this bit here, which will prevent it from moving, so it's not in fact toolless. You could loosen that off and leave that loose if you wanted to keep adjusting it, but it kind of feels like that might fall out. It is a lock nut, but if it's backed up enough, it could fall out. Also, the amount and ease of adjustability is not bad. It's a little bit stiff and awkward, and it's also not a whole lot of height adjustment to begin with.
As for the overall adjustment, turns out, yeah, it's only about 5/8 inch. Yeah, about 5/8 for 4 different positions you can kind of fit in there. So not a whole lot.
Moving on to our wire stock. Few complaints there on the wire stock. First, so after some use, it has in fact loosened off. Chances are that'll just be an easy fix. Take the set screws out, Loctite them, put them back in, tighten it up. Chances are it should be fine. So I actually went ahead and removed the wire stock and had a look. Set screws were Loctite. On our bottom wire, we see we have a drilled hole there. The screw to send in. In the top, we have a flat that is milled there. So we'll Loctite it back in and see how long it lasts.
Now, holding on to a wire stock for 22 LR or 22 mag in the Little Badger family, not such a big deal, but when you're shooting 170 grain, 30-30, you kind of want a little bit more of a grip. It's kind of a key fundamental of accuracy is having consistent grip. Also, it would have cost very little for them to put a split plastic clamshell grip. Would have gave you a lot more to hold on to, wouldn't have added a whole lot to the price, and it would have made the overall feel better. Also, in terms of folding, a plastic grip would still have lots of room when it comes to the fold factor. So definitely disappointed in the grip. Now, the first thing I noticed when I took the rifle out of the box is the location of the trigger. It is awfully to the rear of the trigger guard, like really close. Put an exact measurement on it. We'll take out the old calipers. We're basically 1/8 of an inch. It is very awkward when you first put your finger on the trigger. It feels like you're putting your finger on the trigger guard. Also, when you pull the trigger, I don't know if you can see, but that is just about touching. Very awkward. The trigger itself, in terms of pull and creep, is pretty good for a sub $500 rifle. So no complaints there, other than the overall positioning is terrible.
Up on top, we have our hammer. And in this case, the rifle is in the safe position. And essentially, we have a slide safety, easy to actuate, nice detent, no complaints there. And it simply places a bar in front of the hammer before it can strike the firing pin. So the hammer will drop, however, it will not fire. Hammer itself, no qualms there.
Well, except of course for the light strikes that I had. Out of my first 10 rounds, I had 5 light strikes with both the Hornady and the Barnes ammunition. Disappointing to say the least.
Moving forward to the break. To break the action, I actually quite enjoy this. A little bit nicer than the CVA Scout. I find the Scout can jam up. This seems to have locked up very good, very consistently. Folds up nice and actually has a small relief in the Picatinny rail there in order to allow for a nice and tight folding package. Now in the folded position, we have an overall length of about 21 inches. And at our widest, I'll say we're about 6 to 7. So fairly compact. A nice big locking area there, solid locking pin. And when it is locked up, it is solid. So no complaints there. Moving a little bit more forward, we have our Picatinny and M-Lock handguard mount. Finish is a little bit rough in some places. Not a big deal for the price point. They definitely have it cinched on there pretty good. They can see that they simply have a kind of a pendulum watch hole. Sucked it on there pretty good. It's not going anywhere. Moving forward to our muzzle end, we have a threaded muzzle, 5/8 by 24. One thing I will note is that the thread protector actually sticks past the thread. So it hangs out a little bit. A little extra protection, kind of weird though. Fortunately in Canada, we can't put cans on stuff. However, muzzle brake for those larger loads in 30-30 might be not bad. The recoil on this rifle is quite manageable, even shooting the heavier grain stuff. It was more of a jump, not so much of a kick. So not too bad in that regard. Now, let's look at the optic ability of this rifle. Now I've tossed a small 3-9 scope on here just to demonstrate what it's like. I've noticed a few things. First off is our Picatinny rail. Essentially it curves off at the end here. So this last slot in the Picatinny rail would not be usable. I could probably go back one more and still be usable, but since the depth is changing there, it wouldn't quite be usable. So, bit of an issue there. The next issue is access to the hammer. You could feed your thumb in there, however, it's not pleasant. And I'd rather not. If you have gloves on in the wintertime, not happening. So either you get some higher scope rings, in which case the collapsibility of the rifle goes down dramatically. In which case, why are you buying this rifle for that? So in my mind, you really have two options for putting optics on this rifle, is a scout scope mounted forward or a red dot or prism sight. Now I have a Primary Arms 1X prism on here, and that's essentially what's going to live on it for the most part. Definitely makes more sense as, again, nice easy access to that hammer. So my other thoughts and kind of gripes is, unlike the little brother to the Big Badger, the Little Badger, the Big Badger does not come with iron sights. I feel like of all rifles out there on the market to have a set of iron sights, a lightweight, compact, folding survival type rifle that is affordable, iron sights would be beneficial. Somebody can buy simply a rifle, throw it in the back of the truck, not have to worry about it. Not have to spend another couple $100, $300-400 on an optic to put on it. So definitely another gripe is the lack of iron sights, or at least the option for a easy install iron sight kit. I would love that on this rifle, but fortunately, it's disappointed in more ways than one.
Now, I'm not writing the Big Badger off completely, however, I will be making some changes. I will be adding a section of wood grip to the wire stock for better grip. I will be investigating the hammer spring situation. Chances are I might even swing a stronger spring in there. And I will be doing a few other tweaks here and there. However, for an out of the box rifle, it's got some things to be desired and to be fixed.